Our job is to be prepared for the unexpected. Our job is to win no matter what. We better be masters at this game of innovation.
Innovation. It's a pretty hot topic in the military right now. And it's a source of frustration for military leadership at all different levels. Now, in part, that frustration is because it's pretty hit or miss. We have our success stories that we like to celebrate, but a lot of times we use those successes to try and inform the times that things didn't work out, try and figure out what it was that we were missing. And the other part of the frustration is that when we look out at these other organizations and these big tech companies, they seem to be innovating left and right. And when they talk about their people, they say that their people are talented, hardworking, motivated, dedicated. It's all the same words that we use to describe our people. So what is it that they're doing? Why are they able to innovate all the time and we feel like we're stagnating? Well, what I would offer is that we have two problems. The first is that when we think of innovation under the framework of something called game theory, that innovation is a game, we're playing the wrong kind of game. And the second problem is, do we know what we're asking for? Do we know what innovation actually is, and who can contribute? And I would say that we don't. So the first problem, what kind of game are we playing? So game theory is a subset of mathematics, popularized by a man named James Carse. And what Carse says is that everything in life can be thought of as being one of two kinds of games: finite games and infinite games. Now, a finite game has three main aspects to it. The first is that the players of the game are known. We know who's playing the game. The second aspect is that the players understand and agree upon the rules of the game. We know what you can do and what you can't do. And the third thing, and what's most important for what we're talking about today, is that winning of the game is defined. We know what winning looks like. Now, infinite games are pretty much the opposite in every regard. Infinite games have four aspects to them. The first is that the players of the game are not fixed. Over the course of the game, the players can change. Second is that the rules of the game are not fixed. Over the course of the game, the rules can be bent, broken, challenges can be inserted, challenges can be taken away. The third thing is that winning is undefined. Inherently, when winning is undefined, that means that the only possible outcome is that eventually you lose. And it's because of that third thing that we have our fourth thing. And that is that the players of an infinite game will continue to play the game until they can no longer play. Leadership author and speaker Simon Sinek actually puts it well when he says that the players will continue to play until they run out of either the resources or the will to play. Everything we do in the military, we play by the rules of finite games. Whenever you were going through your professional military education, whether that was basic, tech school, or otherwise, you, the student, are the player. And you're told how you may act and what the rules are for what you must do while you're in training. And at the end of training, there's going to be a measurement device that you're given, by which we'll determine whether you have passed or failed, won or lost. In our professional military education, we teach our supervisors that when they lay out objectives for their subordinates or their teams, that those objectives be SMART, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-driven. That we know what winning looks like. We do this in almost everything we do in the military, but not innovation. So why do I say that? So I'm going to paint a picture. So a squadron commander sends out an email. And in this email, the commander says, "Team, you guys are talented, motivated, dedicated, hardworking, and I know that you have great ideas. I want to hear them. So let's innovate. Let's make the squadron better. Send your ideas up through the chain." Now, before the story continues, there's already an inherent frustration here, and that is, well, what does better mean? Better for me? Better for you? Better for the commander? Better for the customer? I don't know. Do you? See, what's happened here is the commander has initiated an infinite game where the team doesn't know what better means. What does winning look like? And that has consequences. So as the story goes, so an airman reads this email. And despite not having been given a definition of better, the airman comes up with his own definition of better. He says, okay, I think this is a great idea. So I'm going to do like the email says. I'm going to feed it up through the chain. Goes to the supervisor, says, "Sir, ma'am, I think if we do this idea, we can make the squadron better. We'll bring costs down by this much, or time to do this task by this much, and we can make the squadron better." And I think most of us have been in this one-on-one situation before where we get this response. But I think when we look at your idea and the risks and the costs associated with it, and the value that we could stand to gain, or not, because the idea could not work, I just don't think that that's the idea that we're looking for. See, the problem here isn't that the airmen didn't necessarily have a good idea. It could have been a great idea. The problem is that the airman's definition of better and the supervisor's definition of better are not aligned. Because they don't share that same definition of better, what winning looks like, that idea dies right there in that room. And the problem for most of us is when you experience that too many times, you stop bringing ideas to the table. You get frustrated and tired playing the infinite game. And what we need is leaders going out to the teams and defining what winning looks like, aligning the team on a common definition of what better is. There's a lot of high-level programs and initiatives out there directed towards innovation, and a lot of those are celebrated by leadership. But the problem with the marketing and the advertising of these programs is that it's not targeted towards our everyday airmen. We're trying to bring those people to the table, but the things that we're showing them are things like cool jets and new weapons platforms, crazy software that's going to do something awesome. The kinds of things that scientists, academics, researchers, engineers would be tackling, not your everyday airmen. And when we ask ourselves, does the average medtech firefighter, the person over at public affairs that takes your picture, the finance tech, that despite what they're hearing, that when they see that's what we think innovation looks like, do we really think that we're speaking to them and inviting them to the table? And there's a disconnect between what it is that we're marketing and who we're marketing to. So how do we establish a common understanding of what innovation is? Well, let's just start with the definition. So a nice definition for innovation, coming from Harvard, is simply something that is novel and useful. Novel simply meaning new. Now, new doesn't necessarily mean new to the world. That's invention. Simply new to your organization and how you do business. You don't have to be a genius to innovate. It just has to be new to your organization. So if we take that and we say, okay, so it doesn't have to be invention. It doesn't have to be singular genius coming up with something new to the world. Where do we guide our efforts? Where do we put our people to task to try and innovate? Well, in business, we have what we call the 3 Ps: the people, the process, and the product. And the idea here is that for your people, if you take care of them, you train them well, you take care of their health, and you watch out for their morale, that your people are going to use your process, which is the tools that you give them to develop the product. And as long as that process is efficient, you watch out for your costs and your wasted resources, that you should develop a quality product. So a lot of times when we think of innovation and we confuse it with invention, we start thinking and looking towards product. But the most meaningful innovation actually comes from when we make refined changes to our process, the tools that our people use every day. And so already now we are being inclusive of everyone. It is the tools that even the lowest person in your organization uses every day. And if you go to them and you say, what about the tools that you use every day frustrates you? How can this be better? In some measurable way, can we make our organization better? So how do we know this is going to work? How do we know that if we take a singular leader, and that leader defines for the team what winning looks like, aligns the team, focuses our energies and our resources towards accomplishing a specific objective, and as long as we put that objective within our process, the tools that our people use every day, that we can finally start to include everyone and create meaningful change? Let's look at some of the organizations that we're so envious of in their ability to innovate.
Yeah, we have over 3,000 employees and over 4 million square feet of distribution center space. And those are things I'm very, very proud of, because with that distribution center space and half a dozen distribution centers around the country, it allows us to get product close to customers so that we can ship it to customers in a very timely way, which improves customer service levels. That's what we're about.
Now, their product is convenience. The fact that I can sit on my couch and order something on their website, and instead of having to go out to Walmart or some other store, that as long as I have the time, it'll show up to my front door. So there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that's culture. See, culture is actually part of our process. Culture is our communication, the dynamics of who has the authority to say what kind of decisions we can make and how we can communicate with each other, and how we deal with those that question or challenge the way that we do business. See, you have 2 kinds of cultures. You have an open loop culture and a closed loop culture. And you can innovate in either one of them, but the problem is depending on which one you exist in, there are long-term consequences. So in a closed loop culture, it simply is what it sounds like. You're in a closed loop. You can never look out and nobody can question why. Why it is that you're doing what you're doing. The tools that you use every day, are those the best that those tools could be? And is the product that you're actually delivering even relevant anymore? See, an open loop culture allows people to come in from the outside, or those within, to look out and say, is this the best that we could be doing? Is this how we should be doing this? And is the thing that we're actually doing worth doing anymore? We need to have an open loop culture where we accept people coming into our organization and asking why, and that we answer those questions and we look for meaningful answers. And in the absence of meaningful answers, that we now have a new problem that we need to address. So what you need to do is you need to figure out a way to talk to your people. Whether you have some sort of leadership forum, some sort of spark tank where you just get the ideas flowing and you say, team, where within our processes, the tools that you use every day, do you feel like there's room for improvement? And then you pick one. Just one. And you set a measurable, achievable objective to that. You turn to the team and you say, this is your goal. This is what winning looks like. Because our teams need to feel a win. See, one of the beautiful things about a finite game is that sometimes you do lose. And in the beauty of losing is what we learn is that you can take those experiences to the next game and hopefully play better. But when you get a taste for the win, there's something about us as human beings that we respond to that. We love the taste of victory. And when we get to the next game, we're hungry for another win. But again, we need to understand that it's okay to fail.
Why do we false? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
For a lot of times, we do not have a mindset that's accepting to failure, that it's okay to fail. So the thing that I want to leave you with is that what we're really looking for here is progress. So progress is something that the military's done for a long time. For decades, we've been progressing and getting better at what it is that we do. So we need to be asking those questions. And then when we go in with our singular leaders, defining for our teams what the problem is that they need to be solving within the process, to align the team and focus their energies, that's when we can finally get back to progressing the way that we keep dreaming about. Thank you.
My name is Bartek Bakleda. I'm the 2018 Spark Tank winner.
I'm asking you for $1.5 million investment that will instantly improve quality of life for our career field.
Figure out his SPO and get this to the airmen.
This is awesome. If you have a great idea, because everybody does, like literally the ideas and solutions to Air Force problems are walking around, but when they see this, they're like, hey, by the way, we had a staff sergeant to a colonel up here doing the same thing, pushing their idea to try to save Air Force money. I'm gonna put my idea in because this is real and I can do it. I can actually come up here on stage and just talk directly to Air Force senior leadership. I'm like, sir, this is a great idea. Approved. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Given the opportunity to go to efforts, which was extremely important because that's when the actual project went into, I would say, extreme overdrive. It's approved by AMC, it's approved by ATC, approved by headquarters. It's got the funding, it's got the blueprints, flight testing is done. It's just standing by for the cushions to be able to put on all the aircraft. That's it. It's done. Not only are we going to save money, which is key, but we're going to essentially better the quality of life of one career field, the entire career field, all the KC-135 boom operative. For those of you that are here for the 2019 Spark Tank, congratulations, you've already won. By being on stage and briefing your projects, your ideas, your innovation to the Air Force leadership, it's going to move your project along in the right direction.
Attention all units. Innovation non-compliance in progress. Please respond.
So I was just notified of someone refusing to innovate. Probably just PCS in, doesn't understand Spangdahlem's culture of innovation. And that's what we do here. I mean, maintenance alone authorized an egress CPIN that became an Air Force initiative. They also managed an aircraft tester deficiency report that ended up saving over $8 million. All right, what's going on here?
This guy just got here from Malcolmberry, and he's not into innovating.
Hey, I've done it this way my whole career. I'm not changing anything now.
Listen, sir, we innovate here. Last year, this base saved the Air Force $43 million and 170,000 man-hours. We've got a runner. Sir, listen to me. We had 72 innovations. 72 innovations!
All right, I'll innovate.
Attention all units. called unused bench stock items ID, subject to saving $53,000 and 110 man-hours a year.
Yeah, it is kind of surreal. There was a point where I was on stage talking to Lori, and I don't even remember what she said, but I remember thinking, holy crap, I've envisioned this like hundreds of times, and it's actually like happening.
We may not be on the front lines, but we are in the fight. Alongside our airmen, developing, innovating, getting them the tech they need before they need it. We research, we acquire, and we implement cutting-edge capabilities that directly support the warfighter. We are creating new paradigms to work faster and smarter than ever before. We are accelerating our efforts as we aim for new horizons. This is the year of innovation.
Hey, this is Captain Joey Aurora. I'm the Director of Community Development for AFWERX, and my whole job is to foster an environment of entrepreneurs across our Air Force. So community development is really to be the connecting all of the network together. Right? So there's a ton of people that are doing things in innovation, there's a ton of organizations, and so how do we make sure that we're sharing best practices? How do we make sure that we're communicating to each other? And how do we make sure that we're setting up the right tools and ways to execute that aren't out there? There's three main tenets of the community development piece. We do First Fridays at AFWERX. We do one in Vegas, and there's different topics every month. You can think of that as sort of like the TED Talks of the Air Force. And then we have one here in DC, which is focused on bringing folks from the Pentagon and the other bases to the DC hub and chatting about what is innovation, how do we foster that right culture. And then lastly, we have an ideation platform. So any airman can say, hey, there's a problem I want to solve, and get onto this tool, build a team around it, then get to the point where, hey, I want to prototype this idea. And then we connect them with the right resources and mentorship to do so. And that's the purpose of the ideation platform, is there might be other people that have that same idea as you, or you can get people to join in onto that idea and work together to solve those problems. And then we're monitoring and sharing and checking all of this. Come to us, we'll help you break down those barriers. It's not perfect every time either, right? Every challenge that we face is going to be a new way of doing things, a new way of doing business. It's tough, but we have to do it if we're going to be the premier Air Force for the future.
Approximately 1,200 students a year come through the Fire Academy here at Goodfellow Air Force Base. We train military and civilian service members, as well as international students. Tech Sergeant Jayton Washington. I am an instructor at the Department of Defense Fire Academy. My Airman Powered by Innovation submission was a mobile fire pump to replace an engine. And I've just seen an opportunity to really make an impact to save time, money, and resources, and really just ask the question, why do we need so many fire trucks? So immediately I went to work on trying to figure out a way to make this happen. A lot of road bumps along the way, a lot of impossibles, a lot of things where honestly I did want to quit. I did want to say, this isn't worth it. I'm not going to get nothing out of it. I knew the idea was worth the headache. It was worth the risk. Did a lot of research, a lot of hours spent doing that research to figure out the gallons per minute, figure out how much water had to come in to get a certain amount of water out to meet those national consensus standards. Because at the end of the day, I could come create an awesome product, but if it's not meeting those national standards, that product means nothing. Once the fire pump was put into place, it was a seamless operation. We removed the truck and put the fire pump there. There's instructors already knew how to work the operation. Actually had the pump in operation within 24 hours of it arriving on station at Goodfellow Air Force Base. We're spending $72,000 a year on maintenance costs, so we reduced that 60% as well as 56% man hours. It's estimated to save $11.8 million within the first 5 years, $2.4 million the first year alone. To have this idea implemented is something that I'm going to always be able to carry with me throughout. So it's been very rewarding, not personally, because I didn't do it for myself. I did it for the Fire Academy, I did it for the Air Force, I did it for the instructors, the students. You just got to do it, it's worth it.
All right? And so why would someone develop an overly expensive system, and what's going to be their perspective of what you're doing?
Welcome to the military.
Everybody, let's get into it. Get stoned, get it started, get it started, get it started.